Metallica did that record with Lou Reed, and they were eviscerated for this. And when I finally heard the record, I was like, this is the best record these guys have ever done. You know?
Welcome back, everyone, to this week's episode of Last Words here on The Pit. Thank you for joining us today. We've got Buzz Osborne of the Melvins. Buzz, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate any and all interest.
Well, we're particularly interested in you standing up recently to a seemingly exploitive Kurt Cobain memorial. Someone, a journalist, I believe in Aberdeen, Washington, had hit you up about this memorial that was going to be put up in honor of Kurt Cobain. And you said, well, you know what? They should put it up in the jail cell when they arrested him.
Oh, yeah. That was quite a while ago when that happened. Years ago. So he's been dead, I can't remember how long now, a long time. And
so this was right. This interview was right when he died then. It wasn't something that people just decided they were going to do now, however many years later.
No, it wasn't recently, or it wasn't right after he died. It was probably because, that town is relatively slow moving when it comes to things of that nature, certainly of recognizing anything outside the box. But even they couldn't deny somebody selling 100 million records from their town. So they couldn't deny that as much as they probably wanted to. And when that happened, I think that they were expecting me to be all, lovey-dovey about the whole thing and happy. But I had a very, unhappy experience living there and growing up there. And I feel like my life really started after I left there. I don't have good things to say or good memories or, good old days. I'm not really a good old days person anyway. I tend to look back on all the stuff, especially the Nirvana stuff. It's ruined by how it all ended. I don't have this is so great. And it's so amazing that it's just, honestly, I would rather have him be alive and unfamous than famous and dead.
Well, yeah. I mean, it makes me think about what was the perception at the time of his death? Like, you were there, you knew the area, you knew kind of the vibes there. Do you think that over the years that Kurt's image and Nirvana in general has just been blown up to this like warm, fuzzy place of nostalgia versus like where they were at the time?
It was, clouded by heroin and death, the whole thing, heroin addiction. So I'm never surprised when heroin addicts die one way or another. There was nothing I could do. I did feel like I did everything I could in that situation to keep that from happening, but it was not going to happen. He was surrounded by people that had very little interest in me, very little interest in what I thought, and who were not there at the beginning of the whole thing. And I think that, it's sort of like with Elvis, where you take a hick who has nothing and give them tons and tons of money and fame. They may not be ready for that in a way. And especially you mix in drugs the same way and it ends in early death. As far as like the rest of it goes, I'm really happy that something that I helped inspire those guys to do changed music on a global level.
Sure.
So I feel like my initial ideas about music and how it should sound and where it should go were correct. It's just that we're a lot weirder than bands like that.
Before, during the same years around when Kurt Cobain died and after now, we just keep seeing more and more rockers succumb to whether it be addiction, whether it be even illnesses. There's been a lot of instances of people who've died, maybe from partying all their life and then getting sick, or just from not having health insurance. That's something unique to American artists. But what were some, kind of exploitive examples, I think, similar to kind of what you felt was happening in Aberdeen that like we could kind of think of that were similar to this, where an artist's legacy after they died was kind of propped up in a way for money or glory by people who maybe quite were doing it for the wrong reasons?
Well, lots has been written about all that stuff. Certainly about the Nirvana camp. Most of the time they don't really like what I say about it because I'm not about the bright and breezy end of it. I don't see it that way. I'm not happy about how it all ended and how that all worked out. It just kind of has ruined the whole thing. It just made it difficult for me to look back on it. Gosh, it's so great, I mean, we were friends before all of that happened. Before, when all of us were, penniless and with no hope. So I tend to have a better view of those memories than I do of anything that happened once those guys got big and famous.
You guys have had obviously quite a long career and you've kind of stuck it out and you are still the Melvins, and there's not a lot of bands that can do that and have like an actual legacy, right? Like, how do you think that bands do their best to like mature their band and still make money, and tour and make merch that's relevant and kind of like keep up with the times, I guess you could say, in a graceful way?
Well, I don't know. I mean, we don't have any brother bands, for lack of a better term, like, us and these guys, or, this group of people. I've never felt comfortable in that kind of situation. And oftentimes felt like a Groucho Marxist, which is like, I don't want to belong to any group that would have me as a member. It's like, there's nobody doing the kind of stuff we do. I mean, not the weird way we've worked with our band and kept it fresh, and all the strange kinds of projects we've done throughout and all kept it under this heading of the same thing. And nobody's doing that. I don't know of anybody that's doing it. So I think that most bands are, as much as they would like to not think this, are totally conservative, as most music fans are totally conservative. They can't think outside the box. They can't think, well, yeah, this is cool that this band did this. Like Metallica did that record with Lou Reed, and they were eviscerated for this. And when I finally heard the record, I was like, this is the best record these guys have ever done.
It was cool. It was cool.
I was like, I'm sorry, I don't know what these people are talking about. This is way better than, to me, it's the coolest thing they've ever done. And it was a really great thing to do with Lou Reed, and people just stomped him to the ground for it. And I don't understand it. It's like, this is a really creative and cool thing. You guys don't appreciate this. The hundreds of millions of people who like this band can't handle this. Well, if I was Metallica, I would just keep moving in that direction. I would. It's like, what's the problem? They still make money doing that kind of thing, and it's much more interesting than what they end up doing. Well, let's just worry about what people can handle. I don't know what people can handle. I have no idea. All I know is what I think is good. I'm not perversely making music to not have people buy it. We're not beavering away trying to make sure that millions of people don't buy our music. We think that they should, but I've never worried about that. I've always thought, I'm going to make music that I like, the way that I like it, and the way that I would appreciate it if I was a fan. I don't know how many people out there will be there if I go about it with that attitude, but it will be enough. David Lynch said something I thought was really cool, which was, he loses 20% of his audience with every movie, but he gains people along the way. It's like, that's right. That's right. That's the way it is with us too. Our fans stay about the same age. We get older.
There's like a certain sect of people, and like there's a certain sect of bands who really appeal to each other. And those are the people who like stopped getting laid after high school. And then that's when they stopped listening to music, like new music. And like, then there's like bands who only play to those people. And it's like, what are you doing? You're not really, those people, you're not growing. No one here is growing.
We made a lot of records at the beginning that no one cared about. And we just kept doing it. And that was the beginning of that influenced enough people that certainly got a lot bigger than we did. And I was always very happy about that. But if I had not stuck to my guns and started worrying about, what people would like, that would have happened.
When we think of legendary artists that kind of like have these rich estates that basically could be passed on for generations, like you could sell your estate for like, millions and millions of dollars, and it can keep
like Prince.
Yeah, like Prince, exactly. Do you think that somebody becomes a legend when they die young?
Well, what do they say? I can't remember what the saying is. It's something about, if an ugly building will become respectable if you wait long enough,
An analogy.
Something like that. I can't remember. It's something like that. All I can think of is somebody like Hendrix died or Cobain. What would they have done? What kind of things would they have done? And I know there was talk that Hendrix was going to do a record with Miles Davis. Mm-hmm. So we're all lesser as a result of that not happening. So, we're here for a short amount of time on this planet. Money and things like that are generally, no matter how rich you are, squandered by the next 2 generations of your family, and it'll be back to zero. That always happens.
It's true.
What's interesting is we're talking about these bands and their legacies. A lot of people now, especially people who get older and haven't really looked for new bands and are still kind of stuck in like that like old school mindset, are saying like rock is dead. Have you seen this at all, or is there maybe trends that you're noticing when it comes to the youth discovering music?
As far as guitar stuff being dead, I heard that in the early 80s. with when synth pop bands are out, in mass and selling tons of records, that guitar stuff is dead. Well, maybe it is. Maybe. I mean, I don't know. I certainly have no idea. I had no idea what kids wanted then. I mean, I didn't like teenagers when I was a teenager. I don't have any idea what they think. And if I did know what they think, I'd probably be severely disappointed, just like I was then. So I don't know. When I was in high school, I'm 57 years old. When I was in high school, people liked REO Speedwagon, Kansas, bands I couldn't stand. And I'm sure that now, if I was in a high school and was a high school kid and listened to the bands that that people liked, I wouldn't be able to stand it either. I honestly don't think anything has changed just along those lines. Once in a while, I agree with the record buying public and go, yes, I understand why millions and millions of people like this, but by and large, it doesn't really happen. And it's not because I'm not trying to like it. It just doesn't happen. I'd like to, but I've never been in tune with the ways and what's popular with most people in the world. I never have been. That's not. I would much rather be able to turn on the radio, which is what I listen to in the car mostly, and love everything that's on it that's new. But I just don't. I never did. My record collection has only gotten bigger because time has passed, not because there was a golden era. I don't believe there was. Just as many good bands now as there ever was. As far as like what I would be interested in, most of the stuff that's new, I'm not going to be into. It doesn't matter if they play guitars or not. I'm not going to like it. Now, I know people I just don't listen to music anymore. I don't relate. That's okay. And I understand people move on in their lives. Like I don't have kids. I've been married for, the better part of 28 years, but we don't have children. And so I know people, they get to a certain age and they have kids and they have a whole lot of other responsibilities and they kind of move on a little bit. I get that, but I doubt that they're completely not listening to music. Like I see a poster on your wall, Alice Cooper. That's one of my favorites.
Yes.
Alice Cooper is a guy that does that to me on the top 10 level.
Buzz, thank you again so much for joining us today. This was an awesome conversation. Where can people find you to keep up to date with what you're doing, what the band's doing? Normal social media stuff. We have a new album, Working with God, that came out in February. And then we got some new other stuff coming out soon. A big project that I can't really say anything about at the moment. You can also follow me on Instagram, Real King Buzzo, but that's just my photography. And you can find us at The Pit. We are The Pit across all social media. And if you want to hear us and hear all of our naughty words, if you want to hear us go off on tangents about, I don't even know what, but let me tell you, it was intense and it was great. Find the full-length podcast across all podcast platforms.